Live from the Buffalo Wild Wings studios, it's time to get locked into the best Sooner recruiting and football news with Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
I have to admit, Grayson, I'm kind of befuddled. It's not often I find myself genuinely befuddled, but I am genuinely befuddled by this. I don't know if you saw this. There's a new NHL franchise that's coming into existence,
Yeah, I saw
and they're
this.
going to be known as the Utah Mammoth.
Mm-hmm.
Just one. You ever seen that Angela Johnson comedy bit?
Yeah.
Just one.
Just one.
Just one mammoth. Is mammoth the plural of mammoth?
No.
I always thought mammoths was the plural of mammoth.
Yeah, this isn't like the Thunder.
No, it's not. Like, we're talking more than one mammoth here. The logo is awesome.
The logo is
I'll say
dope.
that much.
The logo is great.
Like, the logo's fantastic. It, like, kind of combines mountains and a mammoth head
Mm-hmm.
into one dynamic, awesome, very modern logo.
Yes.
I love the color scheme. Big fan of powder blue in general, so I can get with this. If ever I wanted to hop on the NHL bandwagon, I would consider doing it for the Utah franchise.
See, I did.
But I'm still completely confused by the fact that they are going to be known as the Mammoth. Just one.
I did that with the Golden Knights when they came into existence.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I can't hop on the bandwagon for a Vegas team because I feel like, and I've never like outright hopped on a bandwagon. Like I have two professional sports teams, the LA Dodgers and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Outside of that, like I've never really had an NBA team. I've never watched much of the NHL. If I ever did have a reason to hop on the bandwagon for a sports team, then I feel like if I was serious about that sports team, I would want to attend a game at some point. I would want to go experience the team facility, stadium atmosphere, whatever. And I couldn't do that in Las Vegas. My hatred of
Really?
Las Vegas is well documented. I just don't like
Wait,
Las
hold on.
Vegas.
Wait, really?
Yes, not a Vegas person. Never have been.
I didn't know this.
Dislike it strongly. I have been there enough times to know that I do not have a desire to go back again for non-occupational purposes.
Fair. Tommy on the text line. And I was trying to get to this. They're not new. They were the Utah Hockey Club. So they used to be the Phoenix Coyotes. Or the Arizona Coyotes. One of the two.
Wait, the Arizona Coyotes ceased to exist? See, this is how you know I'm out
wait,
of the loop
wait,
on hockey.
you didn't know this?
No,
Yeah,
no, no.
because they weren't paying their lease on their arena.
Well, that'll do it.
So they moved from Arizona to Utah. They're the Utah Hockey Club, and they just now unveiled what their permanent mascot is going to be.
Folks, when the landlord says your rent is late and he may have to litigate, don't worry, be happy is actually bad advice. Don't listen to Bobby McFerrin there. Just pay your rent. It's the only way that situation is going to get worked out. So they really just they pulled a Commanders and called themselves the Utah Hockey Club
Yeah.
for a year?
Yeah, they did.
That's crazy. So they're are they playing right now as the Utah Hockey Club?
I believe so.
Wild, man. There's a whole professional sport here in the United States of America that I'm so out of the loop on that I didn't even know a franchise went defunct or I guess relocated in the last year.
Rockin' OKC. Kraken is a pretty weak name too. I don't agree with that. I like the Seattle Kraken.
Kraken is cool.
Yeah.
That's a name I can get behind. And it makes sense. It makes a lot more sense than the Utah Mammoth. It's kind of like, and I don't watch a ton of soccer. I don't pay attention to soccer really at all. But I pay enough attention to soccer to know that they refer to a team in the plural, right? And I'm not even really sure how to explain this in more detail. But instead of saying, what's the name of a soccer team? Give me the name of a soccer team.
FC Barcelona.
Yeah, they instead of saying FC Barcelona is, they'll say FC Barcelona are, right?
I've never understood that. And I had roommates my senior year of college that were big Premier League watchers, and they would all, and I've noticed the commentators do that. I'm like, I have no idea why you do that.
Weird stuff happening in the American fringe sports, folks. That's why we try to stick to football, basketball, and diamond sports here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Parker Thune alongside Grayson Singleton with you here on Locked In. Hanging with you via the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439. This hour of programming on The Ref is brought to you by Dorsey Jones at Buick GMC out in El Reno. Go check out their fantastic lineup of vehicles which feature the ultra-reliable Buick and GMC trucks and SUVs, as well as get some of their outstanding service, which includes half-price oil changes on Saturdays. So, short little trek out to El Reno to tap in with Dorsey Jones. It's a trip that is well worth it. Again, 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Chris from Knoxville, I guess, says one of the mascot names mentioned was Yeti,
Yeah.
but a certain brand got upset about it.
Yeah, they wouldn't relinquish the naming rights.
Oh, come on. You can't trademark Bigfoot's name.
I mean, if you've built a pretty big corporation on it, I guess you can.
Ridiculous. Fringe sports. This is why I stay away from them, folks.
Reformed Homer, I can't watch a sport that plays a friendly.
Yeah, no, if we're competing, there is no friendliness involved. We can be friends afterward. That's always how I've looked at it. Hey, let's dig into OU recruiting here because it's a period of much change on the Oklahoma recruiting board in the 2026 cycle. And we talked yesterday quite a bit about a couple of the new offers. Tyler Ruxer, the tight end out of the state of Indiana. Dallas Dickerson, the speedy wide receiver from the state of Georgia, who earned a 4-star rating today from Rivals. So there you go, a blue chip wide receiver that the Oklahoma Sooner staff is pursuing out of the state of Georgia. But the Sooners, Grayson, have made several new offers at the edge rusher position of late. We talked about it last week. Reston Lehman and Ashton Blatt, two prospects from the state of Pennsylvania that picked up OU offers. So we will see what happens there. But this week, well, I guess one of these dates back to last week, but another couple of offers going out to defensive ends in the 2026 cycle. Matthew Nelson from Bryant, Arkansas, and Daniel Norman from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, St. Thomas Aquinas, which I believe, and I'm going to have to fact check this real quick, but I believe that is the same high school that Nick Benito attended. I believe the Sooners got Nick Benito from STA back in the day. I mean, yes, I am correct.
I mean, STA puts out D1 and NFL players galore and has been for quite a while.
Yes, that's correct. Even so, not a school that Oklahoma has recruited all that heavily, at least not recently. I don't know if they've brought anybody in from STA since Nick Benito. Did Jaden Davis go to STA? He might have been an STA kid. But outside of that, man, Oklahoma has not really been a consistent presence at that school. So Matthew Nelson, Daniel Norman, the two newest offers for Oklahoma at defensive end. Now let's start with Nelson because he already has booked his official visit to Oklahoma. He's going to be in town for the Champ U Barbecue June 20th through the 22nd. So that one has moved very, very quickly since he got the offer last Thursday, I want to say. What's to like about Matthew Nelson, having dug in on his background? Grayson?
Motor, effort, and athleticism.
Ooh, I like that at defensive end.
He's got that down. I don't think he's a technically ready player to contribute in his freshman year, but
can develop that.
Exactly. But in terms of the things that you can't teach, he's already got that. He seems a little bit undersized, so I don't know if he's going to be a three-point stance kind of guy. He could be a stand-up edge rusher, I think, would be a better scheme fit for him. But in terms of somebody who's going to chase down plays from the backside, somebody who's never going to give up on a play, somebody's going to give you 100% effort every time. By the way, this dude is not white, just so all of you know.
Despite the fact that his name is Matthew Nelson.
That too, and the superlatives that I'm throwing out there. No, this dude looks like me. But yeah, he's more of a developmental player than I think the guy we're going to talk about next. More of a developmental guy, but in terms of the traits that you can't coach, he's got that down right now.
Supremely athletic and decent size, 6'5", 210 pounds.
Yeah.
So kind of, I would say about right where you want a rush first type of defensive end coming out of high school.
Let me put it this way: he's no Zane Rowe or Jake Cruel.
Gotcha. Yeah, and Zane Rowe, gosh, saw him over the weekend. He's bulked up to 250. Man,
He just got an Ohio State offer too.
Yeah, that's a grown man. For the longest time, he's just kind of looked like an oversized kid. This winter and spring, he started to look like a man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, scary dude. But Matthew Nelson, you figure, okay, if he's 210 now, he probably plays his senior year in the 215, 220 range. And then you can hope that by the time his freshman year rolls around at Oklahoma, he's in the neighborhood of 230, which is a pretty solid, pretty functional weight range for a guy like that to reside within. Long term, you probably want him getting up to 240, 245, but he doesn't have to be that right away. He is the number one 300-meter hurdler in the state of Arkansas.
Really?
Which that's always super intriguing when you see a player at that position and a big boy that has that type of track profile. I mean, that's the type of thing. You look at track, I mean, that's what's tipping the scales for you a lot of times when you're looking at prospects that come from smaller communities, not necessarily giant hotbeds, where you're a little bit more speculative on whether they're going to be able to make the jump in terms of level of competition and whether they're going to be able to compete athletically against players at the P4 level. One of the things that oftentimes can tip the scales as to whether you pursue a guy at safety or wide receiver or one of those offensive and or defensive skill positions is you're going to look at their track times. You're going to look at their 100 meters, if they do the hurdles, if they do relays, whatever the case may be, you're going to take the track profile into consideration. Very rarely do you see a 6'5", 210-pound defensive end in the statewide conversation as an elite hurdler at the high school level. That's what intrigues me about Matthew Nelson. The tape's good. I agree. The motor, the effort stand out. But the athleticism, the sheer athleticism, at times can be difficult to judge on tape, and that's part of the reason why a ton of evaluators, both externally and internally, tend to lean on the track profile, especially at certain positions like wide receiver and like running back. But it's very rarely that you see a guy like that at defensive end with that strong of a track profile, especially as a hurdler. And so to me, that suggests that in Matthew Nelson, you're getting a guy, or would get a guy, I suppose, that has a very, very high athletic ceiling, where if you're able to pack good weight on him, you're able to develop that technique, you could be talking about an all-conference type of player by the time he's done as a collegian.
No, absolutely. He has a high ceiling. You're just not going to see it, I don't think, in year one, maybe not even year two. He's more of a project than some of the other defensive ends that they have been trying to reel in. Zane Rowe, Jake Cruel, for example, Daniel Newman, who they also just recently offered, Daniel Norman, pardon me, who they just recently offered too. So he's more of a project than those guys for sure, but can turn into a really good player.
Jason from Miami says, do we still have people who care what race or a receiver or running back is? Does that matter to you? No, Jason.
No,
it's just
no.
It's a meme on this show.
This is completely
It's
a
a
bit
running
on this
joke.
This is a bit on this.
Tongue in cheek.
We do not care.
Tongue squarely planted in the cheek. A listener in Arkansas has chimed in to say, hey, Bryant High School is dominating Arkansas's largest classification, 6 out of the last 7 state championships. Great program. Wow.
Interesting.
I didn't realize they had been that dominant. Oklahoma hasn't had much of a presence in the state of Arkansas in the recruiting realm until, last cycle when they got Marcus Wimberly and Amarian Robinson. And it's become apparent based upon some of the work that they're doing early here in the 2026 cycle that they want to stay planted in Arkansas. They'd love to have Ja'Cory Smith, who I believe just transferred from Little Rock Parkview out to Bryant. So he's now teammates with Matthew Nelson. So Oklahoma could be looking at potentially a twofer at Bryant High School between Ja'Cory Smith and Matthew Nelson. Now, Nelson's not a guy that has a spectacular offer sheet, at least not right now. He's got official visits booked to, let me see if I can rip this off the top of my head here. Cincinnati, Tulane, South Florida, and Tulsa. So, on paper right now, this should be a recruitment in which Oklahoma is quite easily able to establish an upper hand. The question is, are there others that become involved later on in the process? Are there other big-time schools that take note of the fact that Oklahoma has thrown an offer Matthew Nelson's way, and they start to become intrigued by his athletic profile and his tape, his junior tape out at Bryant High School as well? We'll have to see, but great sign that he's already booked his official visit for the Champion Barbecue. That means Oklahoma goes into official visit season with a very good chance to reel him into the fold. Okay, we talked about one of the two edge offers. We will talk about the other one and, of course, field some of your texts on the other side. 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. More OU football and Crootin talk on the other side. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
After a car crash, life can be hard. You're hurt, stressed, and then, when you need help the most, the insurance company doesn't care.
They drag their feet, question your injuries, and make things difficult. They put profits over people.
At McIntyre Law, we level the playing field. We take on the billion-dollar insurance companies so you can focus on what matters, getting your life back. Call us at 405-777-7000. You deserve better.
As Oklahoma grows, we want to grow with it, and serving part-time in the Oklahoma Army National Guard is perfect for that. Our service provides money for school, so we can be ready for a new career or improve our current one. We learn valuable teamwork skills and get hands-on with some of the latest tech. And we also help the communities we live in recover whenever they are in need. Our service is helping to keep Oklahoma and ourselves moving forward. Learn more at nationalguard.com/OK.
Sponsored by the Oklahoma Army National Guard. Aired by the Oklahoma Association of Broadcasters and this station.
For the professional, it's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
Looking for a fun and adventurous way to spend the summer? Join the Sooner Theater for an unforgettable summer camp experience. The Sooner Theater has 2-week, half-day sessions for students entering kindergarten through 6th grade. Whether your child loves acting, dancing, singing, or magic, these camps have something for everyone. With sessions in June and July, your child can explore creativity, make new friends, and have a blast performing on stage for friends and family. Don't miss out. Sign up now for summer full of fun and adventure through the performing arts. Visit SoonerTheater.org to learn more and register today.
Life is yours to spend. Spend it making more money. Spend it making more memories. Spend it learning a new skill. Spend it teaching an old trick. Spend it career climbing. Spend it mountain climbing. First United Bank. Spend life wisely.
You wanted to be cool, which led you to smoking, which led to a pack a day. Then you met that special someone, which led to starting a life with them, which led to wanting to live longer, which led to quitting. Then you heard you may be at risk for lung cancer, which led you to getting a low-dose CT scan. If you smoked, get scanned. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Five Iron Golf is now open in Yukon, Oklahoma. Escape the Oklahoma weather and play world-famous courses like Pebble Beach on state-of-the-art TrackMan simulators. Perfect your swing with expert coaching or just kick back with delicious food, craft cocktails, and a lively sports bar vibe. Planning a party, corporate outing, or fun night out? Five Iron Golf has you covered. Visit Five Iron Golf to book now and experience the future of indoor golf and entertainment in Yukon.
When I grow up, I want to be a teacher.
Because when I'm a teacher, I can help kids to learn and chase their dreams.
PI, a defect of the immune system, affects millions of children. Early and accurate diagnosis and treatment give children like Sam a chance to achieve their dreams.
It takes a lot of caring teachers to make school fun. It took a lot of caring people to keep my dream alive. And now, because of them, I can be head of the class.
For more information, visit the Jeffrey Modell Foundation at info4pi.org.
Cool Moj on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line has been grinding the tape. 405-651-3439 if you want to chime in via text, as Cool Moj has. Cool Moj says, what are the odds Dallas Dickerson ends up at OU? This kid looks legit. I watched his junior year highlight reel and was amazed at his breakaway speed. Cool Mo likey. Yes, we talked about Dallas Dickerson quite a bit yesterday on this show. Emmett Jones and Ben Arbuckle were down to visit with him in the state of Georgia yesterday morning. Now, as far as the odds he ends up at OU, way early to tell right now. He's had the OU offer less than a week. I do expect him to take an official visit to the University of Oklahoma. That said, if Georgia ever gets involved, I would imagine he goes to the University of
You might
Georgia.
be screwed.
Yeah, he's about 15 minutes away from Georgia's campus. So, given what Georgia has done with white wide receivers in the last few years,
I love how this bit just never fails to come up.
I mean, that's kind of Georgia's thing. So, when you got a kid that's that close to home, that fits that genotype, if you will, then it stands to reason you're going to be the favorite for a kid if you throw a hat in the ring. But Georgia hasn't yet. Mm-hmm. And so, as we talked about with Dickerson, two of his prominent recent offers are Oklahoma and Florida. I would expect that those two schools are squarely in the mix moving forward. And probably, we'll see who else gets involved, but probably going to be two of his final contenders. Daniel Norman. We talked about Matthew Nelson, one of the recent defensive end offers for Oklahoma last segment. Let's get to the newest one. Daniel Norman just picked up the Oklahoma offer on Monday morning. So this is very, very fresh. 3-star prospect from St. Thomas Aquinas High School down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. As we mentioned off the top, that is the same high school that Nick Benito attended back in the day. So Oklahoma does have some precedent for grabbing a very, very talented edge rusher from that particular school. But as you got the chance to dig into Daniel Norman, what do you got to say about the type of player that this guy is?
So you remember last year with the two freshman defensive tackles, David Stone and Jaden Jackson, one had upside maybe athletically, but Jaden Jackson was the more technically ready to play. Remember that dialogue from last year?
Yes, indeed.
Daniel Norman, similarly athletic as Matthew Newman, he, I think, is more technically ready to play college football. Because you look at the technical stuff, the foundational stuff of playing the defensive end position, holding the edge, speed to power, that kind of thing. He has that down to a T. He is a more college-ready player right now than Matthew Nelson. And the tape will show it. He's quick, he's good in space, but he never loses sight of the fundamentals. And I think that is something that this coaching staff really, and really any coaching staff is going to really, really like. So it takes 90 seconds to watch. And you see that he is already ready to play college football, I think. Will he need to put on a little bit more weight? Sure. But he's not 210. He's heavier than the 210 that Matthew Nelson is. So That's a guy I'm really, really high on that you could see maybe rotationally, depending on what the room looks like. You could potentially see him rotationally in his freshman or sophomore year with Oklahoma if he lands.
Interesting dynamic here in Norman's recruitment, because if you look at the offer sheet, he's got some really impressive offers. LSU, Miami, Penn State. He's got UCLA. He's got Mississippi State, got Missouri, got Indiana, got Kentucky, got Colorado. He's only got one official visit set right now. It's to the University of South Florida. So,
interesting.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's going on there? What's going on? Do I know much yet about the Daniel Norman recruitment? I do not. Hopefully we'll know more once I have some sourced conversations later today about what exactly the vibe is right now with his process. But yeah, he's got an official visit set to USF, which currently is scheduled for the weekend of the Champion Barbecue. That's fine. Oklahoma could just as easily get him on campus for an official visit the weekend of June 6th through the 8th, when they also have a pretty strong crop of official visitors coming through town. But I don't know if you like that situation more or less. If you're just talking about the offer and Oklahoma's chances in the long run, because you probably feel a little bit better about the offer. The casual, uninformed fan probably feels a little bit better about an offer made to a kid who has LSU and Miami and Penn State on his offer sheet, as opposed to a kid that has Cincinnati and Houston and Tulsa. In Matthew Nelson's case. But stiffer competition in Daniel Norman's case. Yeah, maybe you could infer from the offer sheet that he's a more college-ready player, but you're going to face stiffer competition. Is that really the case, though, if the only OV he has set is USF? That's a recruitment that we're going to track very closely in the days ahead, because Oklahoma's going to have to take 3 defensive ends, Grayson. At least 3 defensive ends. You have Marvin Jones Jr. aging out. You have R. Mason Thomas aging out. And you only got 2 last cycle when you were trying for 3. Alex Shieldknight and C.J. Nixon were the only 2 defensive end signees for Oklahoma when they went into the cycle with every intention of taking 3. So this is a class where you got to have 3. Feel pretty good about where things stand with Jake Krell right now. The consensus out there is that Oklahoma is the leader. Far from over, certainly, but Oklahoma gets him in town for the Champion Barbecue. They'll get his last official visit. They feel great about where things stand with Jake Krell. So they're going to have to see that one through to the finish line, but vibes are good. With KJ Ford, the other guy that has long been considered an Oklahoma lean.
Which was going to be my next question.
Yeah, man, I don't know.
Is it A&M?
Is it A&M? I don't think so.
I swear to God, if it's SMU getting it here, this might be a problem.
I don't think it's one specific school right now that KJ Ford has his eyes set on. He's got like 6 or 7 that he claims to be very interested in. And of note, in the last several days, he made the decision that he was going to pull his Oklahoma official visit off the schedule and move it. So he had originally scheduled the OV for the Champion Barbecue, which you'll love to see that, because Oklahoma historically has a pretty high hit rate on uncommitted official visitors that are in town for the Champion Barbecue. But he's moving his official visit to, get this, the season. He's going to wait to take his official visit until September. There's a lot of different conclusions that you could arrive to with that bit of news. He's still taking 5 summer OVs. It's Alabama, Florida, A&M, USC, and Auburn? Or is it SMU? I can't recall. Anyway, he's taking 5 summer OVs. OU's not going to be one of them. He claims that he's going to OV at Oklahoma come the season. What is your interpretation? When you hear that, what does that insinuate to you?
It's the same thing that I said a couple days ago. It might have been Monday, where the program has lost. I mean, you've won 6 games in 2 of the last 3 years. Everybody in Norman is feeling like, okay, this could be turning around in 2025, given that we have relative health. We got a new offensive coordinator. The defense is still going to be strong. Now we got to see it. I've called this the biggest wait-and-see season in recent years for Oklahoma, and I think that is the strategy that some recruits are going to take. They need to see this. They need to see how functional this is. They need to see if the train's back on the track and there won't be turnover at the end of the season. And I don't blame him for that. Also, keep this in mind, too. This means a lot more for defensive players, too, because Brent Venables is a defensive head coach who has made his bones on the defensive side of the ball. So if you're going to commit to a defensive head coach, if you're a defensive player, you want to see that said defensive coach is going to be here.
And I would say if you're a blue-chip prospect, as Kevin Ford is, with a diversity of very desirable options, and you're evaluating the schools that you could choose to call home, odds are you're going to be looking for one of 2 things. As long as you don't see your commitment decision as a 1-year decision and you actually intend to play 3, 4, even 5 years at the institution that you choose coming out of high school, you're probably looking for either stability or momentum.
Yes.
If you consider the other schools that are in the mix for Kevin Ford, Alabama has stability. Texas A&M has stability. USC has momentum.
Yes, it does.
Florida has momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Does Oklahoma have momentum right now? Because there's a difference between hype and momentum. It is true that there's quite a bit of hype around this Oklahoma team, particularly this Oklahoma offense, Jaden Ott, John Mateer, and the crew going into the 2025 season. But hype doesn't equal momentum. The last time we saw Oklahoma on the football field, they lost 21-20 in the Armed Forces Bolden Navy. So, and I'm hesitant, with that in mind, I'm hesitant to even call what USC has going on momentum. But the key difference between USC and Oklahoma in that regard, and why I'm willing to concede that USC does actually have momentum, is because they have 27 freaking commits in the class of 2026 right now.
All their peers, if you're talking about the recruits, all their peers are going there.
Mm-hmm. And they have spent a ton of money this offseason to completely reshape their entire operation. I don't think Lincoln Riley's pulling the majority of the strings out there anymore. I think it's the new general manager, Chad Bowden, who came over from Notre Dame. They just hired a new director of sports performance today to replace Benny Wiley. Who'd they get? Well, they got the old director of strength and conditioning at Kansas State, which, again,
that's
as much as you hate to say it, that's a really good hire.
It's a really good get.
So you go bring in Rob Ryan to help run your defense. All of this suggests you are serious about winning football games, and you expect to win football games at the University of Southern California. Whether they win football games or not remains to be seen. And to be honest, I don't look at that on-field product heading into 2025 and feel like that's a double-digit win program. But there is no question about it. USC, especially in the world of recruiting, has a ton of steam right now. Doesn't mean it holds, but right now it's what they got.
And by the way, we talk about peer recruiting on the show all the time. That might be your momentum right there. Maybe it's hype because we haven't seen this whole restructuring being put to the field yet. But if all their peers are going there, I mean, 27 is nuts right now for this particular moment in time. So if all their peers are going there, and the peers talk, they talk amongst each other all the time. They know each other from camps and whatnot. There's your momentum right there.
4 or 5 listeners says, we should conclave for recruits. White smoke, we have a commit. 4-Star Shark says, 4-Star Shark says, what the hell is up with Muleshoe getting all these high-level recruits visiting and committing? Well, to a certain extent, it's just kind of the same phenomenon that we see every year with USC. They peak early. What's going to be particularly interesting here throughout the remainder of the 2026 cycle is to see whether or not they can hold this class together, because historically they haven't. I think they had 14 decommitments last class, 2025.
Yeah.
So, historically speaking, USC hasn't been able to hold it together. Can they do it this time? That, to me, is going to be where you're going to be able to start to tell that, and certainly what happens on the football field this 2025 season, whether or not USC has actually made progress and turned a corner, as opposed to just playing up the hype machine and doling out money to recruits in order to build a class early with the hope that you can play enough defense to keep it together. A 405 listener says, Jim Nagy and OU have a lot of that momentum as well, just in transfers instead of high school recruits. I mean, yes and no. Yes, okay, you got Jaden Ott. That's big. I think Jaden Ott is probably the only transfer you brought in the spring window that makes serious waves nationally. And also, the portal and high school recruiting, those are two very different worlds,
yes.
Right? And so if you're a recruit, you're probably not looking first and foremost at what USC did in the portal or what Oklahoma did in the portal. You're looking at the fact that USC has 27 commits right now. Oklahoma has 4.
And you're wondering, why are all the people my age going there?
Is that dictating your opinion of USC and or Oklahoma? Not necessarily, but it's something that makes you think.
Yes.
It's something that you're actively noodling on if you're a recruit. Okay, we have a lot more text that I want to get to, so we'll probably just kick off the final segment of Locked In on the other side with all of your texts. 405-651-3439 is where you can chime in on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. We'll wrap up with a Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line-oriented conversation on the other side. Keep it here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
This is Sooner linebacker Kobe McKenzie, and you're listening to The Ref, home of the Sooner fans.
The Ref is the home of Sooner fans and is once again your home for chaos. Every game-changing hit.
Long fly ball to left. Track. Whoa. Gone.
Every strikeout.
Got him. Swinging.
Every defensive gem.
He caught it. He caught it.
Every game, all year, the Ref has you covered.
Catch Sooner baseball in Lexington as they take on the Kentucky Wildcats this Friday at 5:30, Saturday at 11:30, and Sunday at noon on the Ref and the KREF app.
That twinge in your knee isn't going to wait until Monday, and neither do we. At Orthostat, we've expanded, so you get better hours, better facilities, and the same great care. Open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. Whether it's sprains, strains, fractures, or joint pain, from knuckles to knees and every joint in between, our same-day, affordable care gets you back to life faster. Visit OuchOrthostat.com to learn more.
What is a good neighbor? It's someone nearby who helps make your life a little easier. I'm State Farm Agent Julia Chu, and my team and I take time to understand your insurance and financial needs. So whether you're preparing for retirement or in need of auto, home, life, or business insurance, get the kind of help you'd expect from a good neighbor. Visit the Julia Chu Agency or call 329-3311. Come visit at our new location, 701 Wall Street, Norman.
It's back, the Smokehouse Barbecue Bacon Sandwich at the 12th Avenue Chick-fil-A in Norman. With an original spicy filet, brown sugar bacon, Colby Jack cheese, and a zesty barbecue sauce on a buttery bun. What pairs nicely with the Smokehouse Barbecue Bacon Sandwich? The pineapple dragon fruit lemonade, frosted lemonade, or tea. Chick-fil-A is your place for tailgates, tea meals, birthdays, and all your catering needs. Call the 12th Avenue Chick-fil-A in Norman today at 405-310-3189. And remember, eat more chicken.
Snakes, zombies, sharks, heights, speaking in public. The list of fears is endless. But while you're clutching your blanket in the dark, wondering if that sound in the hall was actually a footstep, the real danger is in your hand, when you're behind the wheel. And while you might think a great white shark is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward, don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Ashton and I'm with the nonprofit Fostering Futures. Every day, children are removed from their homes due to abuse and neglect. In these critical moments, we step in to support these vulnerable kids. We work alongside child welfare workers to meet the essential needs of safety, stability, and healthy connections, as well as providing enrichment opportunities. But we can't do this important work without your support. Consider donating at fosteringfuturesok.org. Together, we can offer children a brighter future.
How serious is youth vaping? Irreversible lung damage serious. 1 in 10 kids vape serious, which warrants a serious conversation from a serious parental figure like yourself. Not the seriously know-it-all sports dad or the seriously smart podcaster. It requires a serious conversation that is best had by you. No, seriously, the best person to talk to your child about vaping is you. To start the conversation, visit talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
I think it was Monday on this show that Cam Rising's name got randomly brought up. We do have some closure on the Cam Rising situation because about a half an hour ago, he took to Twitter to announce that he is retiring from football. I'll read you his statement. It's kind of crazy. Due to a hand injury I suffered during the Baylor game, I've been advised by 2 orthopedic physicians that I will never be able to return to playing football. I'll be obtaining a 3rd medical opinion and will undergo the recommended surgery. I will continue to rehab and do all I can to get healthy. In the meantime, I will unfortunately be forced to medically retire from the game I love. What did he do to his hand?
Yeah.
Did he lose a finger?
That was my question. Is it all still there?
Like, dang, man. Admittedly, I am not well-versed in hand injuries. I've never suffered a hand. Well, that's not true. I have suffered a hand injury. It was purely cosmetic. I cut my hand open with a saw back in the day.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. I cut my hand open with a saw. You could, if you've ever seen my right hand, you can see the scars on my on the knuckles of my ring finger and middle finger.
Interesting.
They're jagged, ugly looking. I had to get 14 stitches in my hand.
I would imagine.
But that was it. No nerve damage, no bone damage, nothing. I just cut my hand open really badly. But I can only imagine how bad of an injury he must have suffered to have orthopedic physicians telling him, yes, because of your hand, you can no longer go back to playing football.
And, I mean, you remember he was out most of, if not the entirety of the year. Like, he missed 90% of it. And now that I think about it, that was one of those injuries where you were kind of waffling around when he was going to come back. He might come back here, he might come back there, that he didn't, and then he missed another timeline. So it is kind of one of those things where it's like, is he ever going to recover from this? Now, I will say this. I have suffered a hand injury before. It was a pretty nasty one. They do take a long time to heal. The hand is – I'm trying to think of like another part of the body that just takes an exorbitant amount of time to heal, more time than you would think. But the hand is one of them. So I have no idea what he did, but this kind of doesn't shock me.
405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. You're listening to Locked In, brought to you by Dorsey Jones Buick GMC here on the Ref. Spartan Sooner, this is kind of a crazy text. Could Matthew Nelson be a project like Ethan Downs and be a real contributor after a couple of years? Listen, there's a lot of adjectives you could use to describe Ethan Downs, a lot of nouns you could use to describe Ethan Downs. Project is not one of them and really never has. I mean, Ethan Downs was playing rotational snaps for Oklahoma as a true freshman in 2021. He never redshirted. He was getting situational action from the jump, was starting by his second year of college as a true sophomore, and held things down as a 3-year starter. So, like, if I'm thinking project at defensive end, I'm thinking more along the lines of a guy like Taylor Wine, right? Where there was a lot of positive buzz about him in spring ball, and you feel like heading into fall camp, he's somebody that's definitely put himself in the conversation for additional snaps, greater responsibility, his first real taste of substantial action in an Oklahoma uniform. But it's taken him 2.5 years to get there. I mean, this is year 3. He's going into year 3. So that's what I think about when we're talking projects. I've never categorized Ethan Downs as a project. I don't think he can be categorized as a project. But certainly, with a guy like Matthew Nelson, I don't think I think it's very rare that you have a defensive end prospect in particular that you regard as a surefire day one contributor. R. Mason Thomas was one of those guys. But outside of that, I mean, think about the defensive ends that Oklahoma got in the 2024 class. 3 absolute studs that had their pick of the litter amongst a dozen or more high-end P4 programs. Wyatt Gilmore, Danny Okoye, Nigel Smith. Did you see any of those guys outside of garbage time action last year?
Nope.
No, you didn't. It's not because they're not talented. Just because that's a really hard position to make an impact right off the bat. A guy like Colin Simmons is very much the exception and not the rule.
Yes.
Guy like that's an alien. I guess you saw PJ get on the field quite a bit as a true freshman in 2023. But, his career has kind of stagnated. You hope it gets kicked back into gear this fall, but that injury-plagued sophomore season definitely did not do him any favors with regard to asserting himself on that depth chart. So even the guys that do see the field in year 1, it's not necessarily the type of deal where they're automatically going to progress and progress and progress.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Colin Simmons. I mean, we found out the hard way about Dylan Stewart, too, at South Carolina. So, I mean, they are the exception, but go back to our first segment, what you were saying about Matthew Nelson, is in that you could expect him to be playing at 230, 235 range in his freshman year, and that would be workable. You're still talking about going up against offensive tackles who are, 280, 290? And a lot of these tackles in the SEC are
north of 300.
North of 300 and going to the NFL. So, no, that just goes to further underscore the point that it is incredibly difficult unless you are some sort of extraterrestrial, like a Colin Simmons at Texas, to really make an impact at defensive end in year 1 in the SEC.
This 405 listener says, I saw Ethan Downs at the on-cue last week. I'm 6'4", and this kid made me feel little. Yeah. Ethan Downs is a mammoth of a human. Not a Utah mammoth, but he is a mammoth of a person. Like, generally, that type of description is reserved for offensive tackles, offensive linemen more broadly, but Ethan Downs is one of those dudes. Like, even though he's not the biggest in football terms at 6'4" and whatever he is, 265, 270, he's the type of 6'4", 270 that when you encounter him in person, you're like, whoa, this is a massive individual. He is, man. It is straight muscle on that frame. He's got very broad shoulders. He's what an NFL football player looks like. I won't be surprised at all if Ethan Downs goes to Jacksonville and makes the Jaguars' 53-man roster. Glenn from Nashville asks, Alex Shieldknight, will he play linebacker or DN? He's a DN, 6'2", 250. I don't think he might have played linebacker as a freshman in high school. But for the last 3 seasons that he was at Wagner High, he played defensive end. That is what he will be at Oklahoma. And he's one of those guys, I think the floor is high for him. I don't know if the ceiling is terribly high because he is somewhat physically limited at 6'2", 250, which, to be fair, is R. Mason Thomas's almost exact physique. But Alex Shieldknight is an R. Mason Thomas. Nobody is R. Mason Thomas. R. Mason Thomas is the only R. Mason Thomas. He's kind of a unicorn in that regard. But yeah, Alex Shieldknight, probably red shirts this year, as will C.J. Nixon. At least that's my expectation, because I think that's kind of just going to be the thing moving forward at defensive end for Oklahoma. I'll bet you PJ Adibawara is the last true freshman defensive end that we see on the field in a meaningful capacity for Oklahoma for quite a while. This 918 listener says, a project defensive end is already on campus. PJ, come on. Start to live up to the hype. Hey, I'm a believer, man. I'm a believer. I think it's going to come together for PJ. Frisco Sooner says, now hold up, guys. I still don't see where USC's situation is any different than OU's. So what that they have this many commitments? Come on, guys. You two should know that commitments at this point in time in the new college football landscape is worth about as much as the breath coming out of these kids' mouths when they say yes. Don't like saying this, but momentum should be reserved for teams like Texas, SMU, Penn State, Oregon. Look, Frisco Sooner, that's all fine and well, but you have to understand, and you're to a certain extent, you're preaching to the choir talking to me and Grayson Singleton here. Yes, we understand that. Do 17-year-old kids see it that way? Are you going to be able to talk a 17-year-old kid out of the perception that USC has momentum right now? No, they're going to see, hey, 27 of my peers are committed to USC. Heck yeah, they have momentum.
There's something in the water there. I mean, that's what they would say. And look, I think perception to recruits is so vital, which is why I'm so high on SMU in the coming years, because now they do have a more appearance of this is going to be reality than what USC does. But when it comes to that, what you can forecast and what is being perceived is incredibly consequential to 18-year-olds. And that's who we're talking about here. Look, do all of them go on to play 3-4 years at USC? Okay, probably not. Just look at Texas A&M for a recent example of that with that vaunted class. And what was it, 2020? Is what
2022?
2022. Yeah, I mean none of their guys are there except what, Connor Wegman remains there, I think.
No, Wegman's at Houston now.
That's right. So none of them.
They got a couple of stragglers, man,
but that class fell apart. So that could happen in the coming years. But for right now, in terms of recruiting, this is big for USC to go to a kid and say, hey, 27 of your peers that are your own age already want to come here. At least come see what they're talking about. And that's before you even get to the geographical advantage that USC has of being in L.A.
It helps when you're in L.A.
It really
recruiting 17-year-olds.
It really, really does.
Because again, like folks, a lot of the conversations that we have on this radio show and other platforms about USC and what they are as a football program and what Lincoln Riley is as a football coach, that's all to a certain extent going to fall on deaf ears when you're talking or when you're trying to communicate all of that to a 17-year-old kid that's going out to glitzy L.A. and seeing the Coliseum, which of course is empty because it's not during football season, right? But they're in their mind's eye, they're going to see a full Coliseum. It's never going to be full.
And also keep this in mind too. The opinion that Oklahoma fans have of Lincoln Riley may be totally devoid from what anybody involved with USC or prospecting to play football at USC is going to see. I mean, it could be a totally night and day thing because the Lincoln Riley exit was so traumatic here. I mean, Lincoln Riley could win 10 games the next 2 years at USC. He already went to a Rose Bowl at USC. And all Oklahoma fans are ever going to see is losing Bedlam and then him dipping up out of there 12 hours later.
Put yourself back in your 17-year-old mind. Do you see reality for what it is?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. It's like the great Gregory House said, reality is almost always wrong. That's certainly more than applicable when you're 17 years old. Your perception is reality. A 918 listener says, please give us your thoughts on quarterback Whit Neubauer. I guess that's a good place to land the plane here on this Wednesday edition of Locked In. He's Oklahoma's third-string quarterback going into next year. Good arm talent, a guy that has starting experience, obviously some intelligence, some of the intangibles that you look for to play that position at a high level. He's not going to be asked to play that position at a high level at Oklahoma in the immediate future, in all likelihood. At least he shouldn't be asked. But somebody that, provided he hangs around, could very well be in the conversation to start at some point down the line. The question is, does he see Oklahoma as home for the foreseeable future, or does he see it as a one-year stopover on the route to a more expedient path to playing time somewhere else? Only time will tell. For Grayson Singleton, I am Parker Thune. This has been Locked In. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you'll come back with us tomorrow. Same time, same place. Keep it here on the Ref. Teddy Lehman and Tyler McComas take over on the other side. The Rush is next.